Hello dear Ronins, welcome to Ronin Hood. Today it will be a review about the Sea Wave Katana by Dragon King. Sea Wave is a really beautiful katana in my opinion. All the sculpted engraved pieces represent Sea Wave are really beautiful. But that was not the reason why I wanted to have it. It was just because from the brand Dragon King, this is the perfect size nagasa and the lightweight nagasa that I found on the market, industrial market of shinken. That's why I wanted to practice with that sword. This is a really beautiful sword and the colors change a little bit from my habits because you know that I appreciate black and classical stuff, but it's still for me classical and really beautiful with that blue, this ocean blue, and that silver tone for the engraved pieces. So the length of the blade is 27.58 inches, so it was really close from my size. It make a nagasa of 70.16 centimeters in the information they give on Siberia. The handle length is 29.21 centimeters and the weight 935 grams. So I was really impressed by that so lightweight blade that I thought it was really interesting to practice with it. And it's a damascus with 9260 carbon steel mixed with T10. So 9260 carbon steel is a 1060 equivalent and the T10 is a 1.05% of carbon steel. So just under the Tamagane. This sword is the first sword review in Ronin Hood of a middle class sword. It's not the same budget, of course, but I will make an evaluation, a global evaluation. Does it worth it for the price? If the lightweight and weight distribution of the blade was really interesting, and then if the design was so beautiful, then the sword was practical. The first thing I can say, it is a really, really beautiful sword. I mean, maybe one of the most beautiful sword I found on the industrial market from China. And I really like the tone of silver with blue ocean with steel color and a little bit of gold. So this is the first look before I practiced tameshigere with the sword. The sword is new. So you can see the sword for the first time without scratches on the blade or alteration on the blade, because there were many after the practicing experience. And you can see how beautiful can be the damascus. Even me, I'm a practitioner, so I'm not about the design. I appreciate the design, but for me it's at the end. First it has to be really pragmatic, really efficient, and then if efficiency and beauty both coexist, it is for me exceptional. So this episode will be about useful and beautiful. So it's not a rhythm for this review, quite rhythm. So thank you for your patience, because I need time to explain and analyze how is made this sword. So the point of balance is 10.5 from the tsuba. So it's a really low point of balance. And first, this is not the point of balance that I can appreciate. So 10.5 from the tsuba. The weight is exceptional, 931 grams. It is really appreciable. The kashira is so beautiful. I can look at this sword for hours. It's like hypnotic. Of course, it's a middle class, so everything will be better. Menuki is gold. Menuki represents a kind of cloud. And the silver menuki is kind of an ocean wave, a sea wave. They are really beautiful. They didn't move since I practiced a lot with it. Iaito and Tameshigiri. Samegawa Premium Ray Skin is really beautiful. It's really appreciable to have good stuff in the hand. Premium Ray Skin is different and more appreciable to look, in my opinion. The tsuka thickness is really correct for my hands, so I love this Samegawa. I think it's Japanese silk or premium silk. It's really different than cotton. It's very well tight, and I feel really comfortable with it in my hands. So you can see it in this video in all the details. I wanted to show all the details because for such swords, details are really important. It's a really beautiful sword, and it's a moment for appreciate the beauty of the shinken. The fushi, I love it. The sculpted design is wow. It's so hypnotic. The tsuba is 6.5 centimeters on 7 centimeters. I love the tsuba. It's one of my favorite tsuba ever seen. I think the only model I found that were so sculpted than this one were on Skyjiro high class prices. The Sepa, silver Sepa, really beautiful, a little bit sculpted too. Everything is really refined on that sword. The Abaki, silver tone Abaki. And you can see a little bit damascus reflect on the blade. The motokasane, 6 millimeters. Motohaba, 3.15 centimeters. Sakikasane, 3.3 millimeters. Sakihaba, 2.2 centimeters. And nagasa, 70.7 centimeters. Hamon, I think it's a notare, so it's a damascus steel, T10 steel, and 9260 steel, so it's a mix. Damascus has the reputation to be really resilient from the 9260 and really hard from the T10 for cutting. The bohi is with a groove. It's not my favorite, I prefer nohi. Kisaki, and length of the tsuka is 28.9 centimeters, thickness from 1.95 to 2.7 centimeters, and width 3.6 to 4 centimeters. Thickness and width are really appreciable for me. The length is a little bit too much, but it is okay. The sori is 1.8 centimeters, really classical sori measurements. The koiguchi is really nice with buffalo horn. You will see on the next pictures. So you can see there the buffalo horn. It preserves the hand who handle the saya from cutting if the wood is cut by an uncorrect draw out of the sword. The saya, blue ocean saya, really beautiful. The kurigata shitodome. Kurigata is also with buffalo horn. From a middle class, I think it is normal to have that kind of material, but it is really beautiful to see. The sageo, this blue sageo, is really thick. I like it. This is the way I like sageo. I couldn't say it is silk. It's maybe artificial, but I like it. Kojiri, buffalo horn. What is interesting on this shinken is which type of color they have chosen, and even gold and silver are not the same. They work fine on that aesthetical shinken. The shinonome katana cover is really thick. It could be better for such price, but it's really well done, and I like it. I think it's artificial tissue, but it's thick. It makes the job, and it don't look cheap on the hand. Particularity, the tip is not well finished and aligned with the sori curve. It scratched the abaki and saya inside on noto because of one or two angle of difference with sori curve alignment. It is not appreciable for such middle class product. Abaki koiguchi fitting were correctly made. You can see here all the measurements we have seen before. And in the background you can see my draw of the shinken. Paper test, of course cutting with both arms. I think it is a sword that is more made for batodo than tamashigiri because of the low point of balance. So for cutting with one arm is really easy because of the weight and of the weight distribution. For information, this cutting paper moment has been shot after the tamashigiri experience. So that proved that all the angles were not so bad and that the sword were resilient. It is a sword that is really appreciable to cut paper with one hand. It's really light, really easy, really smooth. It slides with a good sound on the paper, and for the notes, it is like a 1095 or T10 in the feeling, but we feel that there is something in plus to understand how it changed to have a damascus for the cutting improvements by metallurgy specificity. So I feel that it's like a 195 or a T10, but with something different. Maybe it's just the 160 in the back. I mean, in the back, in the blade, but in the back perception that make me feel that it is resilient. Drawing the sword, Tameshigeri Batodo and Suemeno Giri getting test. Yes, Suemeno Giri, because this time the sword is at my measurements, at my size. So I think it's the moment to now evaluate the sword and myself. So I was not happy on the first cut. Maybe I was not warm yet. And first thing, all my pronostics were white from the last episodes when I was talking about the John Lee versus Ronin de Pro. Here, because I can have the proper handling, all my angles are changing. I can have 30 degrees angle, and it changed a lot to have angles that are more close from 30 degrees than 45 degrees, because the omote won't flip in the air. The second thing, and it is a big thing, it was a big challenge to try a so thin and lightweight sword with a so dense material as the Mugen Dachi. Almost 3 kilos of weight explain a lot about the density of the Mugen Dachi. I made an episode about that just before, about Mugen Dachi Omote, on how you can soak Omote free, and the episode on Mugen Dachi Omote versus John Lee or Gozama Tomote. So I won't lie to you, I had to unbend 40 or 50 times the sword, because the difference, the digressivity between 6 millimeters from the motokasane to 3.3 millimeters to the sakikasane is too important in my opinion. This is the first characteristic problem that I found. It's not about my skills, it's about the weight distribution again on the swords. This is the great subject in my opinion about sword, the weight distribution of a sword before the steel quality. So I had to unbend it 50 times, but I won't let here the pictures, and I will make another episode about how to unbend your sword, because the sword was bent on almost every cut, even correct cuts. So it was a big challenge. I had to increase speed, like I thought it was my pronostic, my fear before cutting with this sword, this beauty. And for cutting such dense material, I had to increase speed at maximum. So this is a really great advantage to be fast with a sword like this, but it's so fragile on the tip. The part where you have to cut is 20 centimeters under the tip. It was so fragile that even with correct cut, the sword was bending. So for me, it was a really good feedback of my precision of angles cut. So I had to think and to put a note on all my cuts in my head to understand that even I make a cut with a precision of a note like 7 or 8 on 10, the sword was bending. The only moment where the sword was not bending was when I was on 9 on 10 or 10 on 10 note of precision. So at the only little mistake I was feeling that there were a risk to break or super bend the sword. So I couldn't be at my maximum of power on some movements like double cuts, and I missed many opportunities, but I had good moments like this one. So it was a super agile sword, but a super fragile sword too. So I was feeling like I was walking on eggs, because if the swords was asking a 10 on 10 of precision angle cut, it was really difficult on double cuts, and super difficult and on one hand double cut, because was my challenge. I wanted to try with this sword the double cut with one hand, batodo, one hand cut. And I was not successful on that session. But it's okay, because it was a great session about improving my unbending talent that I didn't practice so much until here. 2, I had to improve my angle of cut to their maximum to have a 10 on 10 or a 9 on 10, because the swords were making me feel in my fingers and by the bending that I was under 9 on 10. And 3, I have to use maximum speed to make it go through the hard, dense material. I think it was a great lesson in exercise of precision. And I can say it's really more appreciable to practice with something that is at my size, with the good measurements, and with lightweight. You can see here it's angle between 30 degrees angle cut and almost 15 degrees angle cut. That means my hip and my back can work properly because it's the good weight and the good size, as the Japanese way, if you look at the Tozando guide size. I tried many times the double cut with one hand cuts, but I'm not ready yet. Or the sword was not working with my abilities. They were good double cuts. I was having great feelings, a good practice time. I missed many shots, but you can see with Mugendachi Omote, you can make 3 sections reassembled for making a double cut. It's possible because it's more dense, but you can't do this, in my experience, with a Goza mat because it's a too lightweight mat. But Mugendachi are really hard targets. I have still to adapt and to be comfortable with them. With this sword I can be fast. I can use muscle tension and more speed. It's really appreciable. Even it's too fragile for me, and this is a 10 on 10. I think this is the best cut that I ever made, because I cut the omote and the omote almost didn't move. So I'm getting closer to a better level. it's a 15 degrees angle. I was really surprised. But when it's good size and good rate, correct weight, other things are possible. I think if this sword was a no-he, I would enjoy it a lot better. It would be less fragile, especially between the tip and the point of cut, 20 centimeters under the tip. And if the sword has a degressivity from motokasane to sakikasane from 6 millimeters to 5 or 4 millimeters, I think it would be a better sword. I've seen before on the shot the sword is bent, and it's visually you can perceive it visually. Double cut, reassembled omote, but double cut. I saw the difference between a 6 on 10 precision angle cut and a 9 on 10 or 10 on 10 angle cut, because the transmission of the heat, because you should have no heat when you cut, but if there is a heat, the transmission with such lightweight sword is so getting directly in your finger that you know so much that you are not on the good way and you are not aligned. Conclusion. If I think this sword's worth it, for the price, I will talk about the practical aspect. For the price, I think no, because I have other swords of that middle class category. They are maybe a little bit less beautiful, and others of course also beautiful as this one, but I have less beautiful swords and they have a better weight distribution and better point of balance, because this is the same thing. And I think to have 3 millimeters or 3.3 millimeters on the point of cut is a really big mistake of conception, in my opinion. And unbending a sword 50 times in the woods is not the best thing I can live as a Tamashigiri experience. But the fact that the swords work correctly when you are really precise on 9 or 10 on 10 of angle cuts means something. Means that I can't give a cut answer, a cut conclusion on that sword. I will need to evolve with that sword and to practice a lot and to see how the second Tamashigiri experience maybe in a year will be with a new video, because it's a really fast and good swords for one hand first, and second, the results were really different when I was really precise or when I was half precise. Of course, it's not a resilient sword, even it's a Damascus, it's not a resilient sword, not in my opinion. It's a really fragile sword. So the profile for that sword, I think there is a profile, so I can't say it's a bad sword, but I don't think it's worth the price. I think there is 40% too much on the price. So 40% less on the price would be really interesting. For $1,300, it is too much MSRP. It is too much in my opinion. But for between $600 and $800, it would be really appreciable. But the profile for that sword, I think, is a person who has 7 to 12 years of tameshigiri. I don't say iaito, I say tameshigiri and iaito. Someone like Japanese people who cut every week, every month, a lot. Some omote. And a person who is 1 meter 50, 1 meter 65 like me. And for that person, that sword, I think, will make sense. With a low price than it is, of course. Thank you, dear Ronin, for having watched this episode. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay focused, mind sharp, and body healthy. And see you soon for a new episode on Ronin Hood.